Hey guys! Oh my god. Hey, so I'm going to be analyzing the show How to Get Away with Murder. I'm looking at the script for the pilot, which was written by Peter Nowak, who also created the show. The setup for the show is carefully planned. The first time that we see the main characters, they are arguing about retrieving the body of someone that they may have killed. By jumping straight into one of the most important events in the series on the first page of the script, immediately grabs the audience's attention. We're given this small moment from like a crazy night right in the middle, and then we're slowly taken back there and shown what leads them to the scary and dangerous situation. We also don't find out who the murdered victim is until the last moment of the first episode. So when I first saw the show, I remember within the first few minutes trying to guess who the murdered victim was. I was suspecting everybody. So introducing this murdered person within 30 seconds definitely grabs everyone's attention. And for those who stick around past the first 10 pages, they're rewarded with the identity at the close of the pilot. Setting up the show this way also tells us who to look for when being introduced to the characters. So during the first scene in the classroom, we are immediately drawn to the characters that we already know. So a bunch of random people will be talking, and then Patrick will say, okay, that person's important. I'm going to pay attention to what he is saying. And for the first half of season 1, we're slowly giving clips to piece together the night we're first shown. So they go back and then they go a little bit past. So we finally get this full night. And it's actually not until the mid-season finale that we get the full picture of the night and everything is revealed. So the setup is really interestingly organized, and I think it was really smart doing that because it drew us in and it kept us in because they didn't give us all the answers right away, but still gave us enough to keep us hooked. So the script introduces a few themes to the first 10 pages. A major one is guilt. In the first scene, the characters are obviously struggling with the guilt of what they're doing. And the script presents this theme in a few different ways. So we start by seeing guilt applied to a situation that is somewhat unrelatable to most viewers, like murder. Most of us haven't murdered someone that we know of. So then we are taken to like a different guilt situation, which is in class. So Laurel speaks up when Wes blanks trying to answer a question on the first day. And Annalise, the teacher, immediately chastises her for taking a learning opportunity away from another student. And that's in front of the entire class. So Laurel is left feeling embarrassed and guilty about that. And then another theme, the theme of responsibility, is also introduced right away. So in the first scene, no one wants to step up and be the leader when the hard questions are asked. Wes says he's going to flip a coin to decide if they will retrieve the body or not because it's a 2-2 tie. And everyone argues this. Says, no, are you kidding? I'm not going to let a coin decide my future. But Wes asks for other ideas and nobody says anything. They're struggling to take responsibility for their actions, and they're also struggling to step up and make a decision that could land themselves as well as others in jail. Like, no one wants to be the person who made that decision. And these themes remain through the series, and they crop up in both everyday situations and the crazier ones. But the dialogue in this script is very fast-paced. The way the characters talk immediately give you a sense of who they are. And they're all law students or lawyers, so obviously they're all very smart and they have to think on their feet. So the dialogue definitely keeps up with this type of person. For example, the first thing Annalise says upon entering the classroom is, and she's walking very fast and speaking very fast, and she says, "Good morning, I don't know what terrible things you've done up to this point in your lives, but clearly your karma is out of balance to get assigned to my class. That said, here we all are. I'm Professor Annalise DeWitt, and this is Criminal Law 100, or as I prefer it, How to Get Away with Murder." So in these 5 sentences, we know that this is not someone to be messed with. This is someone whose brain probably works much faster than most people, and she likes being dramatic, which is good for any lawyer to have dramatic flair. The dialogue in the first scene is really smart. They don't outright say, "We killed someone." Instead, Laurel says, "This is murder. None of us know what we're talking about." So we assume that they have committed the murder, but we can't know for sure because they didn't specify. They just said this has to do with murder. And this helps build suspense later in the season because we don't know exactly who killed the victim until the mid-season finale, and that episode shows several possibilities sort of building on each other until the actual fatal blow is struck. As far as the imagery goes, this script is extremely descriptive. Peter knew exactly what he wanted to see, and he wasn't afraid to specify in his writing. He sets up the scenes and characters like he's in a conversation with the readers. This casual format definitely intrigued me when first reading the script. Instead of circling around a description with a formal wording and everything, he just sort of cuts to the chase. With a few lines that sort of caught me off guard. The first one was, "It's a wild, rowdy, debaucherous orgy of school pride that only America's wealthiest children can get away with." This just really sets up this bonfire party where all these college kids are getting drunk and the football coach is egging on the crowd and everything. It just really helped create this picture in my mind of the setting, as well as like understanding what's happening for the characters at the time. So when Wes is flipping the coin, the description says that the four of them are watching, freezing, and totally fucked. And I don't know, it just sort of put me on a more personal level with the characters. I felt that I was just having a conversation with the writer, and he's just telling me a story about these people who are just totally screwed because they've gotten themselves into this hopeless situation. And he sets up the characters in the same style. For example, when he's describing Patrick, he tells us what Patrick is normally like. So he says he's sexy, confident, sophisticated, cool, and hyper-articulate. And then he adds that at this moment, when we first meet him, he's shitting his pants. So it's funny, as well as it also makes us feel like we already know Patrick, and we can picture him clearly. And we can realize that they obviously must be in a really bad situation for him to lose control like this and not have it together and be freaking out and you know, have his hair all mussed up. So, for the catalyst, it's very subtle with the show. We start with a murder, but there's this whole chain of events, and that's actually one of the last things to happen. And what starts the whole chain of events is actually in the first 10 pages, it's only shown visually, so it's just described briefly in the script. And this catalyst is the missing girl, Lila Stangard, who becomes very important for the show. So her disappearance is only shown in one shot in the first 10 pages. Wes, one of the main characters, he walks by a bulletin board. He doesn't look at the bulletin board, and it's covered, and Peter in the script has underlined every inch of the board is filled with the same flyer. And it shows Lila's face and says, "Missing, have you seen me?" And this becomes really significant throughout the series. The mystery of what happened to her becomes intertwined with the murder that we are introduced to at the start of the pilot. So I found it really interesting that they showed us just the tiniest, like it's probably like a 2-second shot, and it ends up being the one thing that started the whole mess that we find them right smack in the middle of in the first scene.
So the script uses exposition to introduce us to Annalise Keating. They take advantage of the first day of class setting to have several characters discussing their professor who has a reputation for being extremely tough. They all interact and they're discussing how tough she's going to be, and they're hoping they don't get called on and calling her a ball buster and saying, "Oh, you know, I entered with so-and-so Justice," I think it's Justice Roberts, you know, so I'm going to be fine. One girl saying she threw up all morning. So obviously this is someone that we should be intimidated by, and this is someone that we should take seriously and someone who means business. So we're immediately shown that this is not a teacher that you can go to with your personal problems or anything. We get a sense of who she is just from what these students are saying to us. We also learn about Wes's situation, who's one of the main characters, through Annalise's teaching methods on the first day. She called on him, and then he's clearly unprepared, so she says, "You know, why are you unprepared? I gave this thing 2 days ago." And he said, I didn't get it. And she said, don't lie to me, and he says he's forced to say, I only got into school 2 days ago, because he was on the wait list. And he has to say this to the entire class, and he also says he's saying it to us. Now we know this. This is not information that he would give out normally. This is something that he might confess to a girlfriend or something, and it would be very dramatic, and he wouldn't want to confess it. But we would have to wait to see that progression of a relationship before he can confess that. This way, having her, call on him and not take any bullshit from him, we learn about him right away, and it sets him up to be this underdog that we root for, because he was on the wait list. He's going to work really hard, because he didn't just get into school because of his money, or he didn't just get in because he's been good at everything. He's clearly a hard worker. So I think this just very short scene really gives us a lot of insight into Wes's character, as well as Annalise's, because her response is to just, she doesn't say, oh, I'm sorry, but she continues to teach him, and she tries to keep it a positive learning opportunity for him.
One thing I will say about the script was I felt it was fairly gender equal. While many scripts will describe the female characters as a hot girl or something to that effect, like in Social Network, the script not only avoids that type of description, but uses equal descriptions for both men and women. So when we're introduced to the main characters, the descriptions are more geared towards what their personality is. So Michaela's description is 27, preppy, type A. And then we're later told that she likes to be in control. She's going to CEO this shit. Like, that's what she does. And then Laurel, she's 23, bookish, and introverted. It says that she listens, she's quiet, and then when she has something to say, it's usually something important, and it really grabs everyone's attention. And then, for Patrick, he does say, he's supposed to be sexy. And then Annalise it also says that she's sexy, but it is almost like an afterthought to all the other things that Annalise is described as, because she's described as brilliant, passionate, creative, charismatic, and then she's also sexy and elegant and glamorous, and she's dangerous, and she's described as a shark through water. So I just found it interesting that in the script there is no reference to someone just being hot girl. Even the side characters are nervous person or intellectual nerd or something like that. And I just found it kind of refreshing that there's no like slutty girl or dumb girl or anything like that. Alright, well, I am almost out of wine, so I think that means that I am done talking about the show. I hope that you have enjoyed it, and I hope I haven't spoiled too much, because if you haven't seen it, it's a great show, and it definitely keeps you guessing, so I highly recommend it. Thanks for watching.
Whoa!